I've been doing profiles on truly awful seasons here and there once in a while. And based on the race that we're having in the West right now, I thought, hey, I remember there was one year that there were a couple of really bad teams that made the playoffs in the Smythe division. And it didn't take very long for me to find it. Because when you're in I was in elementary school when this happened, and when you're all making fun of just how bad the teams are that are going to make the playoffs as kids. So there's the Winnipeg Jets, the Vancouver Canucks, and the LA Kings. The Kings would miss this crap fest of a playoffs with the Canucks and the Jets making it. The Smythe division in the mid-'80s was bad. And the ironic part is, the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames, who shared the division with these three teams, were amazing. They were amazing. They were two of the best teams I ever saw. And yet, while Calgary and Edmonton were great, these teams were really, really bad that year. So let's take a look one by one. Remember, two of them had to make the playoffs because of the playoff format being 4 out of the 5 teams in each division made it. It was 4 out of the 6 in the Patrick, meaning whoever missed in the Patrick, better than this. I also should add, the Norris division that year had the Toronto Maple Leafs make the division or make the playoffs with 57 points. So, yeah, you think the West is bad this year? Try the Campbell Conference in 85-86. But they still produced the Stanley Cup winner. No, they didn't. No, Stanley Cup finalist. We'll get to that. Now, league averages back then, the average save percentage was .874. The average power play, 22%. That's huge. Think of it this way: the Leafs have a pretty good power play right now, and it's running at a little over 20%. Penalty kills 77.92%. So this was the time of most offense. Well, close. 81-82, I think, was the highest. It's 80-81 or 81-82. Doesn't matter. The Jets would finish the year at 26-47-7. 295 goals for, 372 against. Those numbers will come up again in a sec. 59 points overall. In the first round, they lost to Calgary. They lost 5-1 at Calgary. They lost 6-4 at Calgary. And then they lost at home 4-3 in overtime to make it a 3-game sweep. That's right. This is when it was still best out of 5. So if you had a bad team like this, you only got one home date in the playoffs. Their record didn't start out horrible. They started out 5-4-1 in their first 10. After 20, they were at 8-10-2. After 30, 10-17-3. After 40, 12-24-4. So the bottom drops out. They have 5 wins the first 10, 3 the next 10, 2, 2, 3 to go to 15-30-5. Another 3 to go to 18-36-6. 4 to go to 22-42-6. And then 4 in the last 10 to get to 26-47-7 and show just how much they wanted to make the playoffs. Those 295 goals for, that was actually 17th in the NHL. 372 goals against, that was 17th in the NHL as well. 372 goals against. That's more than 4.5 against per game. Not the worst. There were 4 teams worse than that. Their save percentage as a team was .847. Power play, 20.22%. Penalty kill, 75.22%. So that was a pretty brutal penalty kill. At home, they were 18-19-3, but on the road, they were 8-28-4. Versus Los Angeles, these guys, they were 2-5-1. Versus Vancouver, these guys, they were 3-3-2. Their leading scorer was Dale Hawerchuk, 46 goals, 59 assists. That's right. Hall of Famer Dale Hawerchuk was stuck with this crap. Randy Carlyle was the top defenseman, 16 goals, 33 assists. And the season after this, Winnipeg got better. But this was a really, truly bad season. Then you look at the records against the good teams in the division. Calgary, they were 1-6-1 against them. Edmonton, they were 2-6 against Edmonton for a total of 3 wins, 12 losses, and a tie. And that's the highest win total on the board for anybody against Calgary and Edmonton during that period. Awful. The Vancouver Canucks, who made the playoffs with 23 wins, 44 losses, 13 ties. So those 13 ties helped them get into the playoffs. Ouch. They lost to Edmonton in round 1 because of course they did. They lost 7-3 at Edmonton. They lost 5-1 at Edmonton, and then they came home and they lost 5-1 at home. So they were destroyed by the Oilers. Their season started off not so bad either. 4-4-2. After 20 games, there were 9-9-2. And then the bottom fell out. They didn't get a win in their next 10 to fall to 9-18-3. And that's it. 13-23-4, 16-27-7, 17-34-9, 18-40-12 to finish then at 23-44-13. But at least they were 5-4-1 in their last 10. So go Canucks. Those 282 goals for, I only put the goals for up here for Winnipeg. So 282 goals for Vancouver. That's 19th in the league for offense. They allowed 333 goals, which is 15th best for defense. Wow. Their save percentage was .864, which is the highest on the board. They had King Richard in the net at the time, Richard Brodeur. It was Brian Hayward at that point for the Jets. And Bob Janesic for the Kings. Trivia answer there. Power play, 21.24%, which is the highest on the board. Penalty kill, 78.35%, also the highest on the board. So at least their special teams were average. At home, they were 17-18-5, so only one game below 500, same as Winnipeg. However, on the road, it was a disaster. 6-26-8. Versus LA, they were 5-1-2. Versus, they were 5-2-1. I messed that up. This 5-2-1. Versus Winnipeg, they were 3-3-2. Petri Skriko was their leading scorer with 38 goals and 40 assists. I love Petri, man, but during this era of mega stats, yeah, not a good enough leading scorer. Rick Lance was their number one scoring defenseman with 15 goals, 38 assists. One of his absolute best seasons in the NHL, and soon after that he'd go to Toronto. Versus Calgary, they were 2-4-2. Versus Edmonton, they were 0-7-1. For a total of 2 wins, 11 losses, and 3 ties against Calgary and Edmonton. You guys complain about stats being padded now. Go back and look now at those Edmonton and Calgary teams and ask yourself. So, did they have an easier road because of their division opponents? And the answer to that is kind of, but it's the 80s. We didn't really ask those questions very much. The Los Angeles Kings, who missed the playoffs. Not really much worse than the ones that made the playoffs. 23-49-8, so they just didn't tie 5 games that Vancouver did. They finished with 54 points. But how they got there is different. They're 2-8 after their first 10. 5-14-1 after 20. 7-19-4 after 30. 13-23-4, so they had the same record at 40 games as did the Canucks. 17-27-6, meaning at 50 games they were 1 point ahead of Vancouver, and they would have been favored to make the playoffs out of these 3 crap teams as the one with the best chance to be the top crap team. 20-34-6 after that. That again is the best record on the board, and then they only won 1 of their next 10. In fact, they only won 3 of their last 20. 21-42-10 after 21-42-7 after 70 games. 23-49-8 after the season's done. Their save percentage was .855, right in between the two. Power play 17.56%, which is the worst on the board. Penalty kill 71.70%. So penalty kill that's sinking irregularly. At home they were 9-27-4. On the road they were 14-22-4. Against Vancouver, they were no. That's right. This is 5-1-2 because against Vancouver they were 1-5-2, and versus Winnipeg they were 5-2-1. So no, those numbers are all right. It's tough to keep track of this many numbers sometimes, especially first thing in the morning. Anyways, versus Vancouver and Winnipeg aside, they were 6-7-3 in games between them. Vancouver was 8-4-4, and Winnipeg was 5-8-3 in the matchups between the 3 teams. So Vancouver won the series between the 3 of them, if that's fine. Bernie Nichols was the leading scorer for the Kings. He had 36 goals and 61 assists. Jay Wells was their top defenseman with 11 goals and 31 assists. Scoring-wise, their top defenseman. Versus Calgary, they were 1-7, and versus Edmonton, they were 0-6-2 for a record of 1 win, 13 losses, and 2 ties against the Oilers and the Flames. It shows just how far a gap there was, a chasm, as it were, between these three teams and the Flames and the Oilers, who ruled the division. This was the year that in the playoffs, these teams would both get dispatched in sweeps. Edmonton and Calgary would then embroil themselves in one of the greatest battles of Alberta ever, that is best remembered for Steve Smythe knocking the puck into his own net, and helping to send Calgary to the next round. And Calgary then goes to the final, and they lost in the final to the Montreal Canadiens. So there you go. The truly awful 1985-86 Smythe Division teams of Winnipeg, Vancouver, and LA. So when people talk about how a bad team's going to make the playoffs this year, you can say, yeah, you should watch THG's video on 85-86. 2 really awful teams in the Smythe Division managed to make it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And I'll talk to you again soon.